My name is Naomi Williams, and I'm 28 years old. I stood at the entrance of the South Side Community Garden on June 15th, my ivory dress catching the afternoon sunlight, watching the last guests arrive for my wedding. David squeezed my hand as we peeked through the garden gate. His side of the ceremony space was packed. His mother, Rosa, his three sisters, cousins I'd only met twice, his abuela who'd flown in from Guadalajara. They'd claimed every chair on the groom's side, and some had already moved to fill the bride's rows because my side? Empty, not a single chair occupied except for Simone, my maid of honor, standing at the altar looking like she wanted to fight somebody. Not Dad. Not my brothers, Terrell and Deshawn. Not even my aunties who'd helped raise me after Mama passed. Not Aunt Patricia, who'd taught me to braid hair on her back porch every Sunday. Not Aunt Denise, who'd taken me school shopping when Dad forgot. Not one cousin. Not one family friend from Mama's church. Not one person who'd watched me grow up in this neighborhood. Every single one of them had chosen my sister Lauren's baby shower instead. David's youngest sister, Isabella, touched my arm. Naomi, it's time. Everyone's waiting. I looked at my phone one more time. No messages. No missed calls. No running late texts. Just the group chat from this morning that I wasn't included in. The one my cousin Janelle had screenshot and sent me out of pity. The one titled Lauren's Big Day, where my father had posted a photo of himself in a suit with the caption, "Ready to celebrate my princess and my first grandbaby," posted 30 minutes ago, while I stood here in my wedding dress. Before I tell you how I went from the invisible daughter to the one they couldn't stop talking about, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, you're going to want to see what happened when my family finally discovered who I really was and why Father had promised to walk me down the aisle 8 months ago when I'd asked him to save the date. "Of course, baby girl," he'd said, not even looking up from his phone. "I'll be there. Wouldn't miss my daughter's wedding." Turns out he would miss it. He just wouldn't miss Lauren's. The ceremony was supposed to start at 2 p.m. By 2:30, I was still standing in the garden's preparation cottage, watching through the lace curtains as David's family kept glancing back toward the entrance, confusion written across their faces. Simone paced the small room, her burgundy maid of honor dress swishing with each aggressive turn. I'm about to call every single one of them and cuss them out. Don't. My voice came out smaller than I intended. They're probably just running late. Simone stopped, hands on hips. "Girl, you sure they're coming?" I looked down at my phone. The screen was blank. No notifications. No text saying stuck in traffic, or GPS is acting up, or be there in 10 minutes. Just silence. David's abuela, Lucia Martinez, knocked softly and entered without waiting for an answer. At 73, she moved with the kind of authority that came from raising 6 children and burying 2 husbands. She took one look at my face and understood everything. "Mija," she said, her accent thick, but her words clear. "Family is who shows up, not who shares your blood." The kindness in her voice nearly broke me. I pressed my lips together, refusing to cry and ruin the makeup Simone had spent an hour perfecting. "They'll be here," I whispered. "Dad promised." Lucia exchanged a look with Simone. They both knew what I was refusing to accept. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and dialed Dad's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then his voicemail kicked in. "You've reached Raymond Williams. Leave a message, and I'll get back to you." I hung up and tried Terrell. Straight to voicemail. My chest tightened. Deshawn's phone rang 6 times before he finally picked up. "Naomi, look." His voice was barely audible over the background noise. Music. Laughter. The sound of women squealing with delight. Someone shouting, "Open mine next." My stomach dropped. "Where are you?" I kept my voice steady even as my world tilted. We're at Lauren's baby shower. She moved it up last minute. The doctor said her shower was next month. The words came out sharp, cutting through his excuse. "Next month, Deshawn. Today is my wedding. I know. But she's high risk, Naomi. The baby let me talk to Dad. Silence. Then muffled sounds as Deshawn handed off the phone. I could hear him saying, "She wants to talk to you," and why Father's voice came through, and I could tell he was moving away from the party noise, finding somewhere quieter so he could deal with me. Now, Naomi, don't make this about you. Lauren needs her family right now. The casualness of it. The way he said it, like I was being unreasonable. Like I was the problem. Don't make this about me. I repeated, "Dad, this is my wedding day that you'll understand when you have kids." His tone was dismissive, the way you'd talk to a child who doesn't understand grown folks' business. A baby shower for a first grandchild is important. This is about family. More important than my wedding. Don't be dramatic. He sighed like I was exhausting him. You can get married anytime. People do it every day. But Lauren's health situation, the baby, this is serious. This is about priorities. The words hit me like a fist to the chest. Priorities. I wasn't the priority. I'd never been the priority. You promised. My voice cracked despite my best efforts. You promised you'd walk me down the aisle. You looked me in my eyes 8 months ago and promised, and I'll make it up to you. We'll take you and David out to dinner next week. Somewhere nice. My treat dinner. He thought he could replace walking his daughter down the aisle with a dinner reservation. Dad, click. He hung up on me. I stood there holding my phone, staring at the screen that now showed the call duration. 1 minute, 43 seconds. That's how long it took for my father to choose my sister over me on my wedding day. Less than 2 minutes. Simone was at my side immediately. What did he say? I couldn't answer. If I opened my mouth, I'd scream or sob or both. The door opened and Rosa Martinez entered. David's mother, her dark hair swept into an elegant updo. She wore a navy dress and a gentle smile that disappeared the moment she saw my face. They're not coming, are they? Simone asked what I couldn't say out loud, that I shook my head. Speaking felt impossible. If I acknowledged it with words, it would become real. Rosa crossed the room and took both my hands in hers. Mija, let me walk with you. It would be my honor. The offer was beautiful. Generous. Everything my own family wasn't. But something hard and defiant rose up in my chest. If I was going to be abandoned, I wasn't going to hide it. I wasn't going to pretend. And oh. My voice came out stronger than I felt. If I'm walking alone, I'm walking alone with my head up. Rosa squeezed my hands. Then you walk like a queen. Because that's what you are. Simone grabbed the bouquet of sunflowers and purple irises, the flowers Mama had loved. You ready? I nodded, even though I wasn't. Even though every part of me wanted to run. The walk from the cottage to the ceremony space felt like miles. I could see David standing at the altar under the wooden arbor we'd decorated with ivy and fairy lights. His best man, his brother Miguel, stood beside him. Reverend James Crawford from Mama's church waited with his Bible open, and the chairs. All those empty chairs on my side. The music started. Someone had queued up India, Aries Ready for Love, instead of the traditional wedding march. David's choice. He'd said traditional wasn't us. Every head turned as I appeared at the entrance to the garden path. I saw the moment David registered that I was alone. His face crumpled, not with joy or nervous excitement, but with grief. He was witnessing my humiliation in real time, and there was nothing he could do to fix it. I forced myself to smile, to lift my chin, to walk down that aisle like I wasn't dying inside. Each step felt deliberate, measured. My heels clicked against the stone path. David's family watched with a mixture of sympathy and confusion. Why was the bride walking alone? Where was her father? Simone walked behind me, and I heard her whisper, "That's right, girl. Show them." When I reached David, he was crying. Actual tears running down his face. "I'm so sorry," he whispered as I took his hands. "Don't be." I squeezed his fingers. "You're here. That's what matters." Reverend Crawford cleared his throat and began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Naomi Williams and David Martinez. And I want to start by saying something that this bride's mother, Sister Charlotte Williams, told me many years ago. Family isn't always who raises you. Sometimes it's who stays, the ceremony blurred. I heard the words, said my vows, slipped the ring onto David's finger. But part of me was somewhere else. Part of me was at my father's house, wondering what was so special about Lauren's baby shower that it was worth this. The reception was set up in the same garden, under white tents strung with lights. David's family had gone all out with the decorations. His sisters had made centerpieces. His mother had coordinated the catering with her friend who owned a Mexican restaurant in Pilsen that I tried to be present, tried to smile and laugh and dance. But I kept checking my phone. Still nothing. Simone found me at our table during the cocktail hour, scrolling through Instagram with a look on her face that made my chest tight that oh hell no. She thrust her phone at me. Tell me I'm not seeing what I think I'm seeing. Lauren's Instagram story. Posted 32 minutes ago. The first slide was a video of Dad's living room, transformed with pink and gold decorations. It's a girl! Balloons floated near the ceiling. A dessert table overflowed with cupcakes and a 3-tiered cake. The second slide, Dad standing next to Lauren, both of them holding champagne glasses. He was beaming, absolutely beaming. The caption read, "My princess and my first grandbaby. Hashtag proud papa, hashtag baby girl." Third slide, Terrell and Deshawn playing some kind of game with Preston, Lauren's husband. Everyone was laughing. My brothers were the dress shirts I'd seen them buy for my wedding. They dressed up for her shower. Fourth slide, Aunt Patricia and Aunt Denise cooing over a pile of gifts. Baby clothes, diapers, a stroller that probably cost more than my entire wedding. And the final slide, the one that made something crack inside my chest, a selfie of Lauren, glowing, surrounded by family. The caption, surrounded by the people who matter most. Hashtag babyhaze, hashtag blessed, hashtag family first, posted 30 minutes ago. While I was saying my vows, the comments were already rolling in. Beautiful shower. So happy for you. Can't wait to meet baby girl. Your family is everything. Smiling face with hearts, sister goals. Best anti-squad. I handed the phone back to Simone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Something inside me had gone cold and still. Want me to comment? Simone asked, because I got some things to say. No. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Let them enjoy their party. Simone wasn't done scrolling. I watched her face change as she went through more posts. Naomi. Her voice dropped. You need to see this. She'd found a post from 2 weeks ago. Not from Lauren. From Charlene, Dad's girlfriend of 3 years. The woman who'd moved into our childhood home 6 months after Mama died. The photo was innocent enough. Charlene in Dad's kitchen, holding up a glass of wine, caption about Sunday meal prep. But in the background, barely visible on the wall by the refrigerator, was Dad's calendar. Simone zoomed in, June 15th, circled in red marker. My handwriting from 8 months ago when I'd physically written it on his calendar. Naomi's wedding, 2 p.m., but someone had crossed it out. Thick black X through my name, through wedding, through everything that written over it in different handwriting. Lauren's shower, RSVPs to everyone that I stared at the photo until the image burned into my brain. This wasn't a medical emergency. This wasn't a last-minute change because of doctor's orders. This was planned, deliberate. Someone had physically crossed out my wedding and replaced it with Lauren's shower. And everyone had said, yes, I'm going to. Simone started, her voice shaking with rage. Don't. I took the phone from her. Just don't. David appeared, concern written across his face. Everything okay, perfect. I smiled and kissed him. Everything's perfect, but it wasn't. And it was about to get worse that my phone buzzed with a DM notification. Janelle, my cousin, the one who'd always been honest with me, even when it hurt. The one who wasn't at the shower. Girl, I'm so sorry. I can't believe they did this to you. Attached was a screenshot. Not from Instagram. From a family group chat I didn't even know existed. The chat name. Lauren's big day. I scrolled through messages from 3 weeks ago. My stomach turned with each one. Lauren. So I'm thinking June 15th for the shower. Who's in? Dad. We'll all be there, princess. Whatever you need. Terrell, I'm in. Preston, you need help setting up. Aunt Patricia, count me in. What's the theme? Lauren, thanks everyone. I knew I could count on my real family, Deshawn. Wait, isn't that Naomi's wedding day? My breath caught. At least one of them had remembered. Dad, Naomi will understand. She's not having a big wedding anyway. Just a little garden thing. Lauren needs us more right now with the baby and everything. Aunt Patricia, that girl's always been selfish anyway. Lauren needs us more. She's giving us the first grandbaby. Lauren. Thanks, Daddy. I knew my real family would show up for what really matters. Aunt Denise. Of course, baby. You're the priority. Dad. Naomi can get married anytime. Our first grandchild only comes once. I read it 3 times. For times. The words didn't change. Selfish. Little garden thing. She's not having a big wedding anyway. Our first grandchild only comes once. Naomi can get married anytime. Simone read over my shoulder. Oh my God. Naomi, I need a minute. I stood up, legs somehow still working. I just need a minute. I walked to the edge of the garden, away from the reception, away from the music and laughter and David's family, trying so hard to make this day special. I stood there in my wedding dress, holding my phone, looking at proof that my family had chosen. Actively, deliberately chosen. This wasn't about a medical emergency or doctor's orders or high-risk pregnancy concerns. This was about who mattered. And I didn't know I was still standing at the edge of the garden, phone in my hand, when the email notification appeared at the top of my screen. From Dr. Simone Washington, Dean of Chicago Urban Institute. Subject: Congratulations! Director position approved. My finger hovered over the notification. I'd been waiting for this email for 3 months, checking my inbox every morning, every afternoon, every night before bed. And now it had arrived on my wedding day, while I was processing my family's betrayal. I opened it. Dear Ms. Williams, it is my pleasure to inform you that the Board of Directors has approved your application for the Executive Director position at the Williams Legacy Project. Additionally, the Chicago Community Trust has approved your grant application in the amount of $750,000 for the 3-year development phase. Your vision for community-centered youth development, workforce training, and cultural preservation align perfectly with our mission. We were particularly impressed by your commitment to naming the center after your late mother, Charlotte Williams, and your dedication to serving the South Side neighborhoods that shaped you. Your annual salary as executive director will be $120,000, with benefits commencing July 1st. Please review the attached contract and return it by June 30 th. Congratulations, Naomi. Your mother would be incredibly proud. Warmly, Dr. Simone Washington. I read it twice. 3 times. $750,000. Executive Director. My mother's name on a building that would serve hundreds of kids who looked like me, who needed what I'd needed at their age. Someone to see them. 3 years. I'd been building this for 3 years, mostly in secret. Writing grants at midnight after teaching all day. Meeting with community leaders on weekends. Renovating the old recreation center on 63rd Street with a team of volunteers who believed in the vision even when I barely believed in myself. The Williams Legacy Project, named after Charlotte Marie Williams, my mother, who'd spent 30 years as a social worker in Englewood before cancer took her 5 years ago. And my family had no idea it existed. I could hear Dad's voice in my head from 2 years ago, when I tried to tell him about the project in its early stages. We'd been at Sunday dinner at his house. Lauren and Preston were there, showing off photos from their Cancun vacation. I'd waited for a break in the conversation, then mentioned I was working on something. I'm organizing a community development initiative, I'd said, trying to sound casual. It's still in the planning phase, but we're looking at youth programs, job training, cultural arts. Dad had looked up from his plate of greens. That volunteer stuff? When you're getting a real job, baby girl. It's not volunteer. Well, not all of it. I'm working with the Urban Institute, and Lauren had laughed. That tinkling sound that always made me feel small. Naomi's still playing activist. How cute. Remember when she wanted to save the world in high school? I'm serious about this, I'd said. We're applying for grants, building partnerships. That's nice, honey. Dad had already gone back to his food. But you can't pay bills with good intentions. You need stability, benefits, a pension. Like Lauren got with her corporate job. Lauren worked in HR at a consulting firm, made decent money, had the benefits and the 401k and the stability Dad valued. That I'd worked as an art teacher at a South Side elementary school for 6 years while building the project on the side. Decent salary, good benefits, summers off to focus on grant writing. But to Dad, teaching was just something I did until I figured out my real career, that I tried one more time. This could be really significant. We're talking about sustainable community, investment, hom. Dad had turned to Lauren. So tell me more about this promotion you mentioned. And just like that, I'd disappeared again. After that dinner, I'd stopped mentioning it. Stopped trying to share my wins. When I'd secured the first small grant from a local foundation, I'd told Simone. When I'd gotten the support of 3 aldermen, I'd told David. When the Chicago Community Trust had invited me to apply for major funding, I'd told Pastor Williams and Miss Claudette and the youth I was already serving in the program's pilot phase. But my blood family, they'd already decided who I was. The dreamer. The one who'd never quite measure up to Lauren's corporate success and suburban stability. Let them think what they wanted. I'd learned to protect my joy from people who couldn't celebrate Why phone buzzed with a calendar reminder. Monday, June 18th, 9:00 a.m., National Community Builders Conference. Keynote panel, McCormick Place, Chicago. I'd almost forgotten. In 3 days, I'd be on stage at one of the largest community development conferences in the Midwest. The panel was called Grassroots Leadership in Urban Development, New Voices, Bold Visions. 3 featured speakers. I was the youngest by 15 years. The conference organizers had reached out 6 months ago after reading about the Williams Legacy Project in a local nonprofit newsletter. They'd wanted to feature emerging leaders who were disrupting traditional models of community investment. I'd said yes before I could talk myself out of it. The email from the conference coordinator was still in my inbox from last week. We're expecting 800 attendees for the keynote, with live stream access for another 2,000 online participants. Local media will be covering the conference, including the Chicago Defender, which has specifically requested an interview with you. The Chicago Defender, the same newspaper my grandmother had read every week of her life. The same paper that had covered the civil rights movement, Harold Washington's election, every significant moment in Black Chicago's history, and they wanted to interview me. The profile piece was scheduled to publish Thursday. For days away, the reporter had already done the interview last month, had already visited the community center, had already photographed me with the youth in our after-school program, that I hadn't mentioned any of this to my family. What would be the point? They'd find a way to make it small, to redirect the conversation to Lauren, to remind me that real success looked different than whatever I was doing. The bathroom in the garden's main building was small but private. I locked myself in and sat on the closed toilet lid, still in my wedding dress, still holding my phone with that email glowing on the screen. The tears came finally. Not pretty crying. Ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that shook my whole body to knock on the door. Naomi. David's voice, gentle but worried. Mi amor, let me in, Dot. I unlocked the door. He slipped inside, closed it behind him, and immediately pulled me into his arms. They chose her, I said into his shoulder. They planned it. They crossed out my wedding on the calendar and chose her shower instead. Did I know? He held me tighter. Simone showed me that I pulled back enough to look at him. I'm sorry. This was supposed to be our perfect day, and I'm falling apart. Don't apologize. He wiped my tears with his thumbs. They don't deserve you. They never did. That I showed him the phone, the screenshots from the group chat, the proof of their deliberate choice. David read through them, his jaw tightening with each message. When he finished, he looked at me with such tenderness it almost broke me again, Demi Amor. This says everything about them and nothing about you did I know. I do. But it's still my voice caught that's when he saw the email still open on my screen. His eyes widened. Wait. Is this? Did you? He grabbed the phone, reading quickly. You got it? You got it? Yeah. A laugh bubbled up through the tears. $750,000. We can renovate the whole building. Add the computer lab. Expand the arts program. Hire full-time staff. Why didn't you tell me you'd hear back today? The question hung between us. Not accusatory. Just confused. I'm so used to good news not matching, I said quietly. I'm so used to being invisible that I forgot I don't have to be. Not with you. David cupped my face in his hands. You matter to me. Every win, every dream, every piece of who you are matters to me. And to everyone out there who showed up today. The people who actually see you did. He kissed my forehead, then my nose, then my lips. Come on, let's go celebrate with our real family. We walked back to the reception together, and I saw it with new eyes. The garden was full of love. Not the love I'd grown up expecting, the blood relation kind that came with conditions and comparisons, but the chosen kind. The kind that showed up. David's mother Rosa had organized the sisters and cousins into a coordination team that would rival any wedding planner. The food was perfect. The music was exactly what we'd wanted. The decorations were beautiful, but more than that, the people were beautiful. The table nearest the dance floor. 5 teenagers from the Williams Legacy Project's pilot program sat in their Sunday best. I'd invited them weeks ago, never imagining they'd be the only young people at my wedding representing my side. They stood when they saw me approaching, and the oldest, a 17-year-old poet named Jordan, cleared his throat. Miss Naomi, we wrote you something. The DJ lowered the music. Jordan and the others came to the center of the dance floor. What followed was a spoken word performance that stopped the entire reception. They spoke about community, about the people who see you when your own family looks past you, about building your own table when the family table has no room. They say blood is thicker than water, Jordan said, his voice carrying across the garden. But what they don't tell you is the full phrase. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The family you choose, the people who choose you back, that's the blood that matters. When they finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the place. Pastor Williams, no relation to me, despite the shared last name, stood next. He was 74, had known my mother, had been running the storefront church on 63rd Street for 40 years. I knew Charlotte Williams, he said to the guests, knew her heart, knew her spirit, and I see her in this young woman right here. Naomi's been serving our community for years, pouring into our children, fighting for resources, believing in a vision most people said was impossible. Charlotte would be so proud. And those of us who've watched Naomi grow, we already are. Miss Claudette spoke next. At 82, she ran the food pantry that served 300 families a month. Naomi had helped secure funding to expand it last year. This child right here, Miss Claudette said, pointing at me with a crooked finger. She don't wait for permission to do good. She just does it. And that's why we're here. Because when you find somebody like that, you show up for them, the speeches continued. David's abuela, Simone, David's best man, Miguel, each one speaking about chosen family, about showing up, about love that doesn't come with conditions. If you've ever had to build your own family because your blood family couldn't see you, you know this feeling. The moment you realize you're not alone, you're not invisible, you're surrounded by people who chose to see you, who chose to stay, who chose to celebrate you without needing to diminish you first. Type chosen family in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. Later that night, in the hotel suite David had booked for our wedding night, I sat on the bed still in my dress and pulled up my calendar. Thursday, June 21st. Chicago Defender Profile publishes Monday, June 18th. National Community Builders Conference Keynote, live streamed Saturday, June 23rd. Williams Legacy Project Grand Reopening, Celebration, all of it happening this week. All of it happening while my family thought I was just playing activist, wasting my potential, refusing to get a real job. The Chicago Defender article was already written. The reporter, a woman named Jasmine, who'd grown up on the South Side, had spent 3 hours interviewing me. She'd asked about my mother, about the community, about why I'd chosen to stay and serve instead of leaving for bigger opportunities. Because this is my home, I told her. These are my people, and they deserve someone who sees them as more than statistics or problems to solve. They deserve investment, real investment, the kind that builds power, not dependency. The article would go live Thursday morning. Front page of the local section, Jasmine had said, with photos of me at the center, working with the youth, standing in front of the building that would soon bear my mother's name. The keynote on Monday would be live streamed across the city. Community organizations, nonprofit leaders, city officials, all watching, and the grand reopening on Saturday? We'd already sent invitations to 300 people. Aldermen, foundation directors, community members. The press.my family would find out the same way everyone else did. Not because I announced it, not because I threw it in their faces, but because the work was real, the success was real, and it was about to become impossible to ignore. I looked at David, already asleep beside me, exhausted from a day that should have been perfect but had been complicated by my family's cruelty. I could confront them. Call Dad right now. Send screenshots to the group chat. Make them acknowledge what they'd done. But why? They'd already shown me who they were. Believe them. Et them find out when the article dropped. Let them see the live stream when everyone else did. Let them realize in front of their friends and neighbors and church members that the daughter they'd dismissed was building something they'd never imagined. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing this for my mother, for the kids who needed what I'd needed, for the community that had raised me even when my family had stopped seeing me. And if my family felt shame when they finally understood who I'd become, that was their burden to carry, not mine. Did I turn off my phone, curled up next to my husband, and slept better than I had in weeks? The McCormick Place Convention Center was massive, but the ballroom where the National Community Builders Conference held its keynote felt intimate once the lights went down. 500 people filled the seats, faces I recognized from years of community work mixed with strangers from across the region. I stood backstage, hands shaking slightly as I adjusted the microphone clipped to my blazer. The moderator was introducing the panel, reading my bio from notes I'd submitted months ago. Our next speaker, Naomi Williams, is the executive director of the Williams Legacy Project, a community development initiative on Chicago's South Side. At 28, she's the youngest director of a major community center in the city, overseeing youth programs, workforce development, and cultural preservation efforts. Simone squeezed my hand. She'd taken the day off work to be here. You've got this. I walked onto the stage. The lights were bright enough that I couldn't see individual faces, just the mass of people waiting to hear what I had to say. Good morning. My name is Naomi Williams, and I want to tell you about my mother. The room went quiet. Charlotte Marie Williams died 5 years ago from ovarian cancer. She was a social worker in Englewood for 30 years. Every day, she went into homes where people were struggling, where systems had failed, where hope felt like a luxury nobody could afford. And every day, she asked the same question: what would it look like if we invested in people the way we invest in problems? I clicked to the first slide. A photo of my mother in her office, surrounded by case files, smiling despite everything. Before she died, my mother made me promise something. She said, "Baby, don't just talk about change. Build it. Make it real. Make it last." So that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years. The next slide showed the old recreation center on 63rd Street, boarded up and abandoned. This building sat empty for 7 years. The city called it a blight. The community called it a loss. But I saw what my mother would have seen: potential. Click. The same building, renovated. Fresh paint. New windows. Kids visible through the glass, laughing. The Williams Legacy Project serves 200 young people, through after-school programs, summer camps, and weekend workshops. We've placed 63 people in jobs through our workforce training program. We run a food pantry that feeds 300 families a month, and we do it all with one guiding principle. Community members aren't clients to be served. They're partners in building power. I spoke for 20 minutes about investment versus charity, about centering community voices, about my mother's belief that people don't need to be saved, they need resources and respect. When I finished, the room stood. 500 people on their feet, applauding. I saw the Chicago Defender reporter in the third row, typing furiously on her phone. The live stream counter on the screen showed 1,847 viewers across the city. Somewhere in that number, someone who knew my family was watching. Wednesday morning, I was at the center reviewing grant reports when Simone burst through my office door, newspaper in hand. Girl. Front page. She slapped the Chicago Defender on my desk. Naomi Williams, building her mother's dream into Chicago's future. The photo took up half the page. Me in the center's art studio, surrounded by 5 teenagers, all of us laughing at something someone had said. The photographer had caught a genuine moment, unposed and real, that I read the article with my heart pounding. A 28 years old. Naomi Williams is doing what many said was impossible, building a sustainable, community-led development center in one of Chicago's most under-resourced neighborhoods, without corporate sponsorship or political favors. My mother taught me that family isn't just blood, Williams says, sitting in the office of the Williams Legacy Project, named after her late mother Charlotte. It's who shows up, and this community has been showing up for each other long before I arrived. I'm just helping build the infrastructure to support what's already here. The article detailed the $750,000 grant, the programs, the vision. It mentioned my background as an art teacher, my commitment to staying on the South Side despite offers from larger organizations, and buried in the final paragraph. Williams recently married David Martinez in an intimate ceremony surrounded by the community she's dedicated her life to serving. Intimate ceremony. That was one way to describe a wedding my entire blood family had skipped at my phone started buzzing before I finished reading. The article hit social media within an hour. Every nonprofit organization I'd ever worked with shared it. Aldermen from 3 wards tagged me in congratulatory posts. Community organizers I'd met once at conferences were suddenly celebrating my success. Then at Jump Circles, someone from Lauren's church saw the article and shared it in their congregation's Facebook group with a caption. Didn't know we had a local hero in our midst. Sister Lauren, your sister is amazing. Dad's coworker posted it on his timeline. Raymond Williams, your daughter is making headlines. So proud to work with a man raising such accomplished young women. Oren's college friend started messaging her. Girl, did you see this article about your sister? This is incredible. My phone showed 17 missed calls, all from family members I hadn't heard from since before the wedding. Cousin Janelle, bless her, shared the article in the family group chat I wasn't part of, but she screenshot her own post and sent it to me. Her caption, while y'all were at a baby shower, Naomi was building an empire. Shame on all of you. The replies came fast. Aunt Denise, we didn't know. Terrell, yo, why didn't anyone tell us about this? Aunt Patricia, this is making us all look bad. Janelle's response, you are bad. Y'all skipped her wedding. Don't blame the article for showing who you really are. Dad called at 11:47 a.m. I let it ring 4 times before answering. What is this article? No hello. No congratulations. Just confusion and accusation. Since when are you running something? Since Mom died. I kept my voice calm, professional. The same tone I used with foundation directors and city officials. Since I promised her I'd finish what she started. Why didn't you tell us? I did tell you, Dad. 2 years ago at Sunday dinner. You asked when I was getting a real job. You said it was volunteer stuff, silence. Then defensive anger. Well, we were at Lauren's shower because she needed you were at Lauren's shower while I was at my wedding. I cut him off cleanly. Let's not pretend this was about need. This was about choice. You chose her, like you always do. Don't make this about. I'm not making this about anything. I'm stating facts. You missed my wedding for a baby shower that wasn't even an emergency. And now you're calling because you're embarrassed that other people know what you did. That's not fair. Neither is crossing my wedding off your calendar and replacing it with Lauren's party. But here we are. I hung up. Lauren called 6 minutes later. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. I saw the article. Her voice was tight, controlled. The tone she used when she was trying not to sound jealous. Congratulations! You could have told me you were doing all this, like you told me you were moving your shower to my wedding day. Sharp intake of breath. That's different. I'm high risk. The doctor said, are you though, Lauren? High risk? Or is that just what you told everyone, so they'd choose your party over my wedding? How dare you? How dare I what? Ask questions. You were drinking champagne in Dad's Instagram stories. You were playing games and opening gifts while I was saying my vows alone. So forgive me for wondering if this medical emergency was as urgent as you claimed. I had a miscarriage. Her voice cracked. 2 months ago. Nobody knows. The shower was supposed to make me feel better. The admission hung between us. I felt the anger soften slightly, but only slightly. I'm sorry you lost the baby, Lauren. Genuinely. But moving your shower to my wedding day wasn't about grief. It was about testing who they'd choose. And they chose you, like they always have. That's not true. It is true. You know it is. You've always been the favorite, the pretty one, the successful one. And when I started building something real, something that mattered, you couldn't stand it. So you made sure everyone would miss it. Naomi, I have to go. I have actual work to do. I hung up before she could respond. Aunt Patricia called next, and she wasn't crying or apologizing. She was angry. You're making us look bad. She launched in without greeting. That article makes it sound like we don't support you. You don't support me. You didn't even come to my wedding. Lauren needed us. She's family. So am I Aunt Patricia, or I'm supposed to be. That article didn't need to mention the wedding. You're trying to embarrass us. I didn't write the article. The reporter asked about my personal life. I told the truth. I got married on Saturday surrounded by the community I serve. That's what happened. You could have left out that we weren't there. You could have actually been there. Lauren needed to make sure she was still the favorite. And you all proved she is. The article didn't make you look bad. Your choices did. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a community center to run. I blocked her number. Tuesday afternoon, I was in the computer lab helping a student with college applications when the receptionist came to find me. Naomi, your brothers are here. I found Terrell and Deshawn standing in the main lobby, looking around like they'd stepped into a foreign country. The walls were covered with student artwork. A youth poetry slam was happening in the multipurpose room. Voices carrying through the open door. The smell of Miss Claudette's Tuesday soup kitchen wafted from the community kitchen. Damn. Deshawn turned in a slow circle. This is really something. Yeah, it is. Terrell walked to the bulletin board where we posted program schedules, job postings, community resources. You run all this? With a staff of 12 and about 40 volunteers. Yes. They followed me through the building, past the art studio where 6 kids were working on a mural, past the computer lab with 20 workstations, all occupied, past the classroom where GED prep was in session. Why didn't you tell us it was this big? Terrell finally asked. I stopped walking and turned to face them. Would it have mattered? If you'd known about the grant, about the programs, about any of this, would you have chosen differently on Saturday? They looked at each other. Neither answered. That's what I thought. I started walking again. You can see yourselves out. Naomi, wait. I'm working. You should understand what that looks like now. Saturday arrived bright and clear. The grand reopening celebration of the Williams Legacy Project started at noon WY 11:30. The street was packed. 300 people filled the center and spilled onto the sidewalk. Alderman Johnson from the 20th Ward gave a speech about community investment. 2 foundation directors I'd worked with spoke about sustainable development models. The youth performed spoken word pieces they'd written about the center's impact on their lives. David's entire family showed up early to help set up. Rosa coordinated the food with military precision. His sisters hung decorations. His cousins managed the sound system. Simone stood at the podium as MC, introducing speakers with the same confidence she'd had at my wedding. Except this time, there was no empty side of the room. Both sides were full. The press was there. Cameras from 2 local news stations. A photographer from the Tribune. The Chicago Defender reporter who'd written my profile. And in the back, trying to blend in and failing, stood my father and Lauren. They'd come uninvited, probably hoping to slip in unnoticed and observe. But this was my community. People knew them from the article, from the whispers, from Janelle's screenshot that had circulated wider than anyone expected, that I was talking with a foundation director about expanding our mental health services when I felt a hand on my elbow. "Baby girl, we need to talk." Dad, right there in the middle of my event, in front of everyone. "I'm working, Dad. This will just take a minute. You should have told us about all this." I turned to face him fully, aware that people were watching. "I tried to tell you. Remember when I said I was working on Mom's vision? You said, 'That's nice, baby,' and immediately asked if I'd called Lauren about her registry." His face flushed. "I don't remember it that way." "I do. I remember it exactly." Lauren appeared beside him, uncomfortable, aware that several people had their phones out. "Naomi, can we not do this here?" "Do what?" I kept my voice even, professional. "Stand in the building I built? Talk about the legacy I created from our mother's dream?" "You're right, Lauren. Let's not do this here. Let's not do this at all." That I turned back to the foundation director. "Sorry for the interruption. You were saying about the counseling partnership." Behind me, I heard Dad trying to speak, then Lauren pulling him away. That I didn't look back. Sometimes the people who overlook you are the most shocked when the world finally sees you. And sometimes the best response isn't anger or confrontation. It's simply continuing to do the work they said didn't matter. Let them watch. Dad called 3 days after the grand reopening. "I think we should have a family dinner. Talk things through. Work this out. No, Naomi, we're family. We need to. You don't get to skip my wedding, then demand my time." I was at my desk reviewing applications for our new youth counselor position. "I'm not available for family dinners right now." "You're being stubborn." "I'm being clear." "There's a difference." I hung up and went back to work. Lauren's text came that night. Long, detailed, raw in a way I'd never heard from her before. "I've been in therapy since the grand reopening. My therapist says I've been living in fear of not being enough. So I made sure you looked like less. I was jealous. Terrified Dad would love you more if he really saw you. The baby shower thing was a test to prove I was still the favorite. I'm so sorry, Naomi. I know sorry doesn't fix what I did, but I'm saying it anyway. I read it 3 times. Saved it. Didn't respond for 2 days. When I finally did, I kept it simple. I appreciate the honesty. I'm not ready to forgive yet. But I'm not slamming the door either. Terrell and Deshawn showed up at the center the following week with gift cards for the youth programs and questions about volunteering. "We want to help," Deshawn said. "Make up for missing the wedding. For all of it, you can volunteer like everyone else." I handed them both clipboards. "Fill out the application online. We do background checks, orientation, and training. You'll hear back in 2 weeks. Come on. We're your brothers," which is exactly why you don't get special treatment. I took the clipboards back. "If you're serious, prove it. Do the work." They left with the website address. I didn't hold my breath. December brought cold wind off the lake and news that felt like warmth The center was thriving. 200 kids enrolled in programs. Our job placement rate hit 85%. The computer lab ran classes 6 days a week. Miss Claudette's food pantry now served 400 families monthly, and Essence magazine wanted to feature the Williams Legacy Project in their February issue about new voices in community leadership. I did the interview at 16 weeks pregnant. Baby bump just starting to show. The photographer captured me in the art studio, surrounded by youth, one hand resting on my stomach. Contact with my family had settled into something manageable. Dad called every other week. We talked for exactly 10 minutes. Surface level, weather, his new garden, how the center was doing. Terrell had actually completed the volunteer training and showed up most Saturdays to help with the basketball program. Deshawn came once, then disappeared again. Some people changed. Some didn't. Lauren sent a letter in November. Handwritten. 6 pages. Therapy had clearly done work. She owned everything. The jealousy, the manipulation, the years of needing to be the favorite even if it meant making me invisible, that I don't expect forgiveness. She wrote, "But I want you to know I see you now. I see what you've built. I see who you are. And I'm sorry it took me this long." That I wrote back, "I'm open to rebuilding. Slowly, with honesty, no shortcuts." We started having coffee once a month. Careful, fragile, but real. The wedding photos arrived in January, 7 months late because our photographer had taken time to make them perfect. That I opened the box alone in my office. David at a job site, the center quiet between programs. The photo on top took my breath away from me. Walking down the aisle alone. Head high, shoulders back. Sunlight catching the beading on my dress. And my face not sad, not broken. Determined, powerful. Rosa had captured the moment from her seat. Phone raised. Simone stood at the altar. Fierce love written across her features. David's family filled every chair on the left side. Some already crying. The empty chairs on the right were visible, but not central. The story the photo told wasn't about absence. It was about presence. About the people who showed up. Essence shared that photo in February with their article. It went viral within hours. Building family where you find it, the caption read. The comments poured in from people who understood. Who'd walked alone down their own aisles, literal or metaphorical. Who'd built their own families from scratch. I didn't hide the empty chairs. But I didn't center them either. The story was my joy. My community. My choice to keep walking. Dad started showing up to volunteer every Saturday in February. Didn't announce it. Didn't make it about himself. Just appear one morning and asked where he could help. That I put him in the art studio. Grunt work. Cleaning brushes. Organizing supplies. Setting up easels. He showed up the next week. And the next up, April, he was actually teaching. Helping kids mix colors. Talking about perspective. Being useful. Point one Saturday, I found him painting alongside a 10-year-old girl who reminded me of myself at that age. Dark skin. Natural hair. Quiet, but watching everything. Your mama would be so proud, he said when he saw me watching. I'm sorry it took me this long to see it. I leaned against the doorframe. I'm sorry it took you missing my wedding to show up. I am too, baby girl. His voice cracked. Every single day that we stood there in the silence that followed. Not fixed, not healed. But honest. Point 1 year after my wedding, the Williams Legacy Project held its anniversary celebration. That I stood at the front of the multipurpose room. 20 weeks pregnant now. David beside me with his hand on my back. The room was packed. 300 people filling every chair and lining the walls. My mother used to say, "Baby, your worth isn't determined by who sees it. It's determined by what you build with it." I looked out at the crowd. Simone and Rosa in the front row, tissues already in hand. The youth from our programs scattered throughout. Pastor Williams, Miss Claudette, Alderman Johnson, foundation directors, community members, and in the back, quiet and respectful, learning their place. Dad, Terrell, Lauren, and Preston. That a year ago, I got married in a garden on the south side. Half the chairs were empty because my blood family chose to be somewhere else. And I thought that was the worst thing that could happen, that I paused, hand on my belly. But it wasn't, because it forced me to see what was already true. I had a family. Right here. In this room. In this community. In the people who showed up not just on my wedding day, but every day before and after. The slideshow behind me showed the center's growth. Kids learning. Adults graduating from programs. Job placements. Community meals. Art shows. All of it built together. The Williams Legacy Project now serves 500 families across Chicago's South Side. We have 15 full-time staff, 40 regular volunteers. And we're just getting started. The applause was thunderous. After the celebration, I found Dad wiping down tables while everyone else celebrated. "You don't have to do that." I said, "Did I know?" He kept wiping. But I wanted Dot. I picked up a cloth and helped him. Dot. We worked in silence, side by side, building something we should have built years ago. Your family should see you. They should celebrate you. They should show up, but if they don't, build something so bright they can't look away. And if they still don't turn around, keep building anyway, because your light matters. Your work matters. Your joy matters. Not because they finally see it, but because it was always real. Subscribe if you believe that. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And comment below. What did you build when they said you couldn't? Thank you for listening to my story. I'm Naomi Williams, and this is just the beginning.